Now, it's a do-or-die contest for Democrats in the U.S. The 2020 presidential race is about the relevance and survival of the Democratic Party in America. It's perhaps their biggest chance to unseat President Donald Trump. So that tells you how important this election is for them and what happens when politicians are desperate for victory. They promise the skies to the people. Now, Bernie Sanders is facing a test of his political legacy. In his bid to outdo Donald Trump, as well as his rivals in his own Democratic Party, Sanders has made a huge promise.
It is simply not acceptable that our younger generation, through no fault of their own, will have a lower standard of living than their parents, more debt, lower wages, and less likelihood of owning their own homes. That is why this proposal completely eliminates student debt in this country and ends the absurdity of sentencing an entire generation, the millennial generation, to a lifetime of debt for the crime of doing the right thing, and that is going out and getting a higher education. Bottom line is we should not be punishing people for getting a higher education. It is time to hit the reset button. Under the proposal that we introduced today, all student debt would be canceled in 6 months.
An absurdity, he calls it. Now, as all wise politicians, Bernie Sanders has projected opponents to this loan waiver for students as pro-corporate people or pro-Wall Street people. It's an attractive pitch, but is it even feasible? Data shows that about 44.7 million American students are burdened by student loan debt as of this year. Among the class of 2018, 69% of students took out student loans. I'll tell you another scary statistic. The total amount owed as student loans is nearly more than 1.5 trillion US dollars, 1.5 trillion US dollars. And that is $500 billion above the total U.S. credit card debt. That's how big a figure we're talking about. Put simply, politicians like Bernie Sanders can speak all they want about these loans, but the sheer size of these loans is too huge to just waive off. Bernie Sanders has just done the classical thing, promising exceptions to a section of the electorate that will bring him votes in the immediate future. We've heard this a number of times. For people in electoral politics, immediate gains trump long-term realities. They believe making exceptions will bring them votes. Sometimes they do. And the story resonates with every country, more specifically with India. In the Lok Sabha elections just concluded, India's political parties outdid each other and offered some big promises. Congress promised to waive off farm loans. The party even implemented this partially in 3 states in which it came to power in 2018. But here's the thing. Contrary to popular perception, these measures do not guarantee electoral success. Since we're talking about the Congress, they lost big in the Lok Sabha elections, even from the states in which the party had already implemented some sort of loan waivers. It did not win them votes in the Lok Sabha election, but this is a scary proposition. Politicians and parties which implement such promises hurt the larger economic interests of our country. Take, for instance, the farm loan waiver in 2008. It helped in the re-election of the UPA in 2009, but the fiscal burden of that scheme hurt the Indian economy. It added to the pain caused by the global financial crisis. That loan waiver set off a gradual decline in the economy. Besides, the loan waiver hurts the credit culture of a country. After the 2008 financial crisis, central banks around the world care about the credit culture. We all know how indiscriminate lending hurts the financial system. But politicians seem to be cut from a different cloth. If something is given as a loan, it basically needs to be repaid unless the situation is exceptional. And even an economy like the US cannot afford a complete waiver of educational loans. Increasingly, this tendency to appease the electorate with sweet deals is threatening to derail democracy. It's a form of a bribe. And right-wing politicians, centrists, leftists, they're all guilty of trying to resort to this. They will do anything to win an election, from Bernie Sanders to Rahul Gandhi to Emmanuel Macron in France. And that's not a good sign for countries around the world. While economists cry out for fiscal prudence, politicians look the other way and they appease the voters. Such promises and plans have serious repercussions. So here's our message to Bernie Sanders. If you want to make education possible for low-income group students, reduce the fares. subsidize the cost. Do not send a message to the next generation that loan waivers are a good thing. They may grow up believing that loans need not be paid back, and that's not a good sign for the future of any economy.